Dear Ajahn, in one of your books you say we have no choice but to meditate. Can you say more about why this is so, please? This is called hypnosis conditioning. You try not to meditate now. This is a skillful means of making you meditate. When you have no choice but to meditate, sometimes people are better say, right, I'm going to prove to that Ajahn Brahm fellow I'm not going to meditate. You find you can't do it. So this is learning how to control your mind in a good way. I often say to people when they come here, you come on a retreat, and I'm honest about it, open, you're being brainwashed in a good way. In other words, it's just the way that we affect one another. And it's amazing to see that sometimes just, if you stay around really nice, good people, kind people, you just pick up on the kindness, on the goodness, on in this particular case, the inclination to peace, to silence, to freedom. Not freedom of desires, freedom from desires. Remember, freedom from desires is not wanting anything. This is good enough for me. So that was a story. People reminded me, if you are from Germany, you will find The Elephant Who Lost His Happiness is the title of one of the best-selling books over there. And it was the same as Good, Bad, Who Knows. But that particular story, there was an elephant, a royal elephant, and that elephant was so obedient, so good, so kind. Just like, in Sri Lanka, you have the elephant who every year goes on the Perihera, the procession with the tooth relic. And it's always a really sort of good elephant. So this was a royal elephant over in some country a long time ago. But the elephant started going cranky, started misbehaving, started doing stupid things, like when he saw the king coming past, he would fill his trunk of water and wash the king. And every time the trainer was right behind the elephant, that's when it would decide to poo. Have you ever seen elephant poo? It's huge. Big animal like that. In fact, a couple of times, now I've been to Sri Lanka, not this time, thank goodness, they didn't. Oh, actually, there was an elephant outside the Gangarama temple. But sometimes you go in procession. Remember in the Peradeniya, I was giving a talk there, and also another place in Kandy I gave a talk, and I had to go in procession, first of all, behind the elephant. And being the monk, I was right behind the elephant. That was so scary. If the elephant had any sort of diarrhea, I'd be the one who caught it. Even worse, if the elephant passed wind, I'd be the one who passed out. But anyway, they're usually well behaved. So this was a really well behaved elephant, but then it started to mess around. And so the king wondered, what must be some sickness or something. So he got him checked out, nothing wrong with the elephant. And don't know what was happening. So they asked one of the wise ministers, this is a Jataka tale, and one of the wise ministers soon checked out the elephant and said, I can't find anything, something strange going on here. So in order to find out, the minister just stayed all day and all night next to the elephant stall. And really early in the morning, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, when everybody else was asleep, the minister heard some strange sounds behind the elephant stall. And he crept through the bushes and saw there was a gang of drug dealers, bandits, bikies, I don't know what you used to call them those days. They never had never had Harley Davidsons in those days. They just had Harley elephants. But they were bad people, and they were plotting and talking about all the people that were beat up for not paying their debts, like the loan sharks. They were going to, what houses they were going to rob, the terrible things they were going to do or had done that night. And so there's such bad people, and the speech was so bad speech. Even though elephant could not understand just the human language, still he picked up on the bad energy. And that was why the elephant got into a bad state of mind and started misbehaving. And so the minister told the king the next day they had all those bad people arrested, and they replaced them with monks. And the monks would meditate and chant, "This is what should be done," by an elephant who is skilled in goodness. They were chanting and meditating, discussing Dhamma, and spreading loving kindness. In a few days, the elephant changed back to his, actually probably better than he was before. And that was one of the stories behind, for those of you who are Buddhist, the Mangala Sutta. Association with fools is not to be done, but association with the wise is a great blessing, with the kind. And this was what happens, and it's so true. That's why many people, if you have a husband who's causing a bit of trouble, getting a bit cranky, you send him to the monastery. And just, because the nice, kind, good monks, after a week or two, he goes back and he's back to a really good husband again. Any stupid wives, you send them to Dhammasara. And after a week or two there, they're just so kind and nice. So that's why people just, when you got a sort of a motorbike, or you've got a car and it's, it needs some tuning up, it needs a service, you send them to the workshop. So this is the workshop to tune up your husbands. But not only that, because we pick up on each other's energies, it means if you send too many monks or too many husbands or too many wives or kids to the temple, then it affects the monks. We get cranky. Pick up on the energy. But we've got a much bigger store of kindness, so we can take that. But anyway, this is what happened with the elephant. So just actually being around monks and nuns, look at those beautiful nuns over there. They have hardly spoken, but they inspire you. Just and Venerable Pratwoon and now Pakasapo, just sitting there. You just pick up on their good energy and kindness. So it's not just they're just freeloaders. They actually give a lot of good energy to this place. So that's actually how we affect one another. So you have no choice but to meditate. You see really good people meditate and you pick up on it. Have you ever had kids and you're meditating at home, and after a little while the kid just sits next to you, just imitates what you're doing? It's amazing just how that happens. They pick up on energy. You don't need to teach them, they just by osmosis. And that's why the book says you have no choice but to meditate. Once you've read that, it's too late. Does deep meditation have something to do with the activation of the pineal gland? No. It's a deactivation of everything. Activation, getting it working again? No, it's just everything stops and becomes really peaceful. Okay, Ajahn Chah's story. You know that he had a stroke, working too hard. So I've been very careful. So I just need to relax and rest. But anyway, that after he had a stroke, the monks, they had a meeting. I was here in Australia when this happened. And they said, just let nature take its course. No need to sort of try and keep him alive. He's done his good service. Just let him disappear. And as soon as the King of Thailand heard that, he said, no way. So the King of Thailand made sure that he was kept alive. And the King of Thailand just sponsored all the male nurses looking after him sort of throughout the whole thing, another 8 or 9 years, until he finally passed away. So there he was, and had a male nurse, but also had about 2 or 3 monks who were just there just to do some services for the teacher. And this is what happened. Not one night, but many nights. That Ajahn Chah would stop breathing. And the male nurse, started to freak out. Ah! Ajahn Chah's dying, we've got to do something. And the monk said, chill out, keep cool, there's nothing to worry about, it's just going into deep meditation. Because that's what happens in deep meditation, you stop breathing, your heart stops beating, you're just perfectly okay. You just go into this beautiful, like, suspended animation. Everything gets deactivated. But the male nurse didn't really believe that. He was scared, especially as being paid for by the king. And if Ajahn Chah, he knew Ajahn Chah was going to die, but he didn't want him to die on his shift. Another nurse's shift was okay, but not my shift. I don't want to explain all this, what went wrong. So he wanted to keep Ajahn Chah sort of breathing again. The monk said, no, leave him alone. No, I've got to do something. And they came to this wonderful compromise where the nurse took blood samples of Ajahn Chah every few minutes to make sure the blood was oxygenated. And it was always well oxygenated, because the problem was that if there's no oxygen in the blood because you're not breathing, then you get brain damage. As long as there's enough oxygen in the blood, who cares where it comes from? But it was still pumping, and so it was really weird. No breathing, but still the blood was oxygenated. And that's a sign, the arena jhana. So Ajahn Chah was still doing his meditation, even though he was in a stroke. So that's what happens. Not the pineal gland is not activated. Everything is just stopped, ceased. I got in my room somewhere that all this weird stuff, as a scientist, it's the weird things which make life really interesting, the unexpected. And even somebody reminded me of this. I had this years ago, 1981, I think, in Sheffield University. Dr. John Lorber, who was researching people whose skulls were slightly misshaped, whether the unusual shape of the skull had any effect on the person's health, intelligence, or other sort of qualities of their life. So when he was in the campus of Sheffield University in England, he'd look at someone, and if they noticed their skull was slightly deformed, they'd invite that student onto the research program, just give them a few dollars or a few pounds. And one day he saw this student whose skull was deformed. No one else would really notice it. He'd already got first-class honours in maths. He was now doing postgraduate work. And they invited him on the research program. And this was one of the times they had the first MRI scans, the CAT scan, whatever you call it, and they gave him a CT scan of his brain and found he didn't have one. The boy with no brain. There was no pineal gland. There was, I think, 1% shell of cortex on the outside, and everything else was cerebral spinal fluid. To all intents and purposes, he had no brain. And he had a first-class honours in maths. He had a girlfriend who was he was abnormal in the sense he had no real defects. He was more normal than normal. And there he was with no brain. So, and again, that's amazing. It's all coming back. That's one retreat over in Sydney years ago. It was a GP who picked me up. He was going on my retreat, gave me a lift into the retreat centre. And I was talking to him about that. He said, oh yeah, he's seen that CT scan. It was done a couple of times just to make sure there was no error on the machine. And he said he wouldn't believe how much problem that is causing for neuroscience. The boy with no brain. Now, just to do a little experiment, could you move your head backwards and forwards like this? If you can hear any fluid stopping around between your ears, you may also have no brain. But it's true. I love those stuff because they really challenge people. So anyway, that's what happens. Deep meditation, You're not activating the pineal gland. Everything's stopping. My hand arm twitches and moves on its own during meditation. I'm not asleep, so I know it's not a sleeping jerk. What is causing this? So far, they're just my arms moving and no other parts yet. Thank you for your wisdom. Oh, something's taking over. No, it's not taking over. It's natural. This is the healing process of the body when you let it do its thing. We are such control freaks with our body that we start to move and then, no, you can't do that, and we stop it. This is the energies of the body, injuries, emotional stuff in the body just coming out. And it has wonderful sort of stories about this, that on one retreat many years ago, there was, I was actually, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I wasn't in jhanas, because they said, look at this girl over there. And she was twisted, really contorted. And I, usually when I say these things, I just show you sort of the thing. If I did that, how she was contorted, you would have to take me to hospital straight away. It was impossible to show just how twisted she was. And we were both concerned. Some great injury is going to happen after this. So I just waited, until she came out of her meditation. And then she straightened up. When she came out, opened her eyes, I asked her, can you please come over here? What's wrong? I said, you were just so incredibly contorted. How are you? I was really concerned about it. I said, I feel great. I feel just so loose and so healthy. And then, of course, you just, okay, I understand now. And, she had an accident. She's lucky to come out of the car accident alive. She's in hospital for weeks, months, I think. And I said, yeah, I understand now. Because of her injuries in hospital for many, many weeks, there was still some healing to be done. And only the body knows how to get that healing. And what she did, her body, she didn't know she was twisted around. It just happened naturally. She was really peaceful. And in her mind somewhere, and the body twisted around, and that allowed energy to move where it was needed. And she felt so wonderful afterwards. So if your body does twist, please let it. It's just doing some healing there. And you can test it out afterwards. It feels so wonderful afterwards. It feels so nice. And you can feel that some relaxation, some letting go, some healing has happened. And the other nice thing with this is maybe you may not twist around or jerk, but sometimes what happens is that you get hot spots in the body. Not the whole body hot, but just one part of it. And the most common place is the shoulders, because people have so many neck injuries. And it happens so often that people sometimes, Ajahn Brahm, you are really psychic. I know you really do have psychic powers. I proved it now by your own admission, because this lady, she said, my shoulders were really, really hot during the meditation, just my shoulders, nowhere else. And I said, that's your whiplash healing. I never told you I had whiplash. It is psychic power. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ajahn Brahm, now I can tell everybody else. I said, no, it's not. It's just the common sense of, when you know what's going on with the body. Whiplash, the most common injury, for car accidents. And because of that whiplash, she had injuries to her shoulders. When she was meditating, really relaxing, letting go, not controlling her body, that allowed the energies to come to where they were needed, which was around her shoulders, to heal whatever damage was done by that whiplash. And afterwards she felt so wonderful, so good. So if you have any hot spots anywhere, well done. Don't interfere it. The body is doing its healing bit. So it's wonderful when those things happen. And on the same thing, there was this guy. And this is not in the Sydney retreat. This is the old days when we used to do the retreats in North Perth. He came, because North Perth, those of you who live in Perth know, it's just next to the red light district of Perth, Northbridge. And so this guy came to the retreat, check in. He had a rubber face mask. And I thought, what are you doing here? Is it some weirdo coming from some strange nightclub in Northbridge? And he said, no. The reason I'm wearing this rubber face mask is because I've got psoriasis. And it was all over his body. And he had to rub a face mask on to stop him scratching the skin off his face. And he opened up his shirt, and it was nearly disgusting. Just the rash all over his body. He lifted up his trousers, so I can see his calves, they were all covered as well. And he said he had this terrible, terrible psoriasis, every inch of his body. He didn't show me every inch, but I took his word for it. And he said that I'll come to check in with you. I don't know if I can last 5 minutes on this retreat. It's 24/7, this torture, and everything the doctors had given him hadn't helped. So just try meditation as, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Nothing to lose. So he said, look, if I don't last, if I just run out after 5 or 10 minutes, it's nothing to do with you, Ajahn Brahm. Don't take it personally. Just, I can't stand just being still. But, all just amazing sort of praise to this gentleman. He stayed the whole 9 days. And I always remember this beautiful, I wish I had sort of a camera or make a video of him afterwards, this beautiful smile on his face at the end of the retreat. On his face with no psoriasis. His face was clear, this beautiful smile. And he opened up his shirt proudly to show there was no psoriasis there. They'd gone from there. He lifted up his trousers, and there was a band 1 inch wide on either ankle. He said, this is all that's left. Thank you so much. He said, for most people, this inch psoriasis, that would drive them crazy, but this is nothing for what I had when I first came on this retreat. Thank you so much. And it's amazing just how this meditation can really help people. So if you do get jokes or whatever, just trust your body. It knows what to do. Don't interfere. The other thing is just, people sometimes feel that bit guilty taking a rest during the day. And please don't feel guilty about that. Because you'll find that, I do this, that sometimes I'm really tired. Or sometimes I've had a good rest. And then suddenly I look at my body, and my body says, go to bed, Ajahn Brahm. But I've just had a rest. Go to bed. And I trust my body now so much that you can feel, you know the difference between just being lazy or whether it's your body telling you need to do something. And you take a break for about an hour or something, you wake up afterwards so fresh and so just full of energy. It's as if the body said there was a bug in your system. And the other monks would say they get sort of fevers and colds and stuff. I never get those things. I get hay fever, but that's about all. But my body knows when it's, it needs to do some repair job. So I put it in the garage. My garage is my bed. And just leave it there until it's fixed. You're sensitive to your body, and I trust it so much. So that's why you know how to look after it. So anyway, that's with twitches and other stuff and moves. Just please let it happen. Don't interrupt it, because trust your body. A joke attempt. Why are there more monks than nuns in this world? That's how this starts. Let's see how it finishes. It's because women are far more superior in multitasking. Yeah, I'm a monk, so I don't get that. It's beyond my intelligence. Do you get that? None? Okay. Explain. Why are there more monks than nuns in this world? I know that one of the reasons is, for actually I don't know if there is, because in Mahayana it's usually more nuns than monks. In Theravada it's more monks than nuns, but we're changing that. The nuns are taking over the Buddhist Society of West Australia. There's a coup afoot. But no, we're just trying to get some equity. But look, you all know, you invite a monk here or a nun there. There's not enough monks and nuns around the world to do all the duties. So it's absolutely crazy. Why do you sort of restrict things just to monks? We need help. So allow nuns, monks equal to actually just to be treated just according to their wisdom, their compassion, not because of their gender. So it's great that we have all this, because you know what's happening in some places? In Japan, there's so few monks or nuns. There's something about the culture of Japan. They always like to have, no matter what religion they are, Christian weddings, because they like the white dresses and stuff, but it's always Buddhist funerals. You know, they get it right in the end, which is the most important thing. So there's not enough monks to do the funeral services. So you just check out on the internet, it's there. They have robot monks, artificial intelligence. So I have these little robots, and actually I had a little video of one of them somebody sent to me. And then when the funeral starts, the robot does perfect chanting. You don't have to go and pick them up and feed them and give them like an ang pao or something. They do it all for free. Just plug them in and switch the switch. Much more convenient. And in one, I haven't seen this, but people told me it, in one funeral shop over in Japan somewhere, they just make it even just more interesting. Whenever they do a funeral service, the monk does perfect chanting, the robot this is, they just switch him on, and then afterwards the chanting is finished. The robot rises up into the air. It levitates. And all this beautiful dry ice comes out and it goes through a hole in the roof and disappears. That's really cool. But for me, it's a bit forced. But anyway, I don't know what the funerals are like in your place where you live, but I think they were building, I knew a lot of funeral directors, they were building a new chapel over in Fremantle years and years ago. And I've been to enough funerals to know they just don't know how to just have these funerals. They usually, they have a little platform and it goes down like a burial, or goes through a curtain. Either way, that is just so, especially going down, that's where a lot of people, they crack up, they lose it at that point, because what does that signify? It goes down. That your loved one is going to the lower realms, hell. So I asked people, said, why don't you give it a little bit more interest on the funeral? But apparently they never took, I think they already said the plans were already in, they were already drawn. But my suggestion was, you have a little platform that you put the coffin on, and if they were a really bad person, everyone knew that, that they'd go, have one switch for going down. If they're really a nice person, they'd always go to retreats and get precepts and given donations, then another one going up. But for most people, going sideways. And instead of the priest or the monk deciding this, we could have a vote. So at the funeral service, have little buttons next to where you sit. First button for going up, second going for sideways, and the third one for going down. So all the relations, people who knew you, they can make it really honest and actually press the button which you think that person deserves. And that'd be, number one, be really interesting. There'd be a point going to the funeral for you. And then it'd be quite interesting, exciting. Which way is he going to go? Or is she going to go up, down, or sideways? So that's my suggestion for the funeral. No one ever did it. And there's amazing ideas, to advance our culture, and they still don't do it. Anyway, those are my ideas for funerals. But we always had wonderful funerals. Actually, I haven't told any ghost stories yet, have I? I always tell ghost stories just this time of night. Because what it does, it keeps people in the meditation hall a bit longer. No, because it's, that sometimes you have these, you do the funerals for people, and if it's a burial, over in the actually there's three grave sites or funeral parlours over in Perth. The one over in Karakata, which is the main, the biggest one, is such a long distance from the gate where everyone assembles to the, especially where the Chinese burials happen. It's a long walk. So I've been doing that a long time. So you're up the front there, with the funeral director, and it's about 10 minutes, to get from the grave site. So I was just chatting to her, just saying hello. And I said, how long have you been in this industry? She said, oh, man, about 20, 30 years. I was about to retire. So I said, oh, wow, 30 years you've been, in this funeral industry. Have you seen any ghosts? She said, oh, yeah. It's just a matter of fact. She said she's working in the office. This was Baron O'Day. She's working in the office there. They're not no scary at all. It's just part of life if you work in the funeral industry. And they you work in the office and see one of the dead people, it's in the fridges, just walk past her office and sees them. And they're just blasé about it. In fact, she tells them, get back in your box. That's what she said. But I said, okay, what's the scariest one you've ever experienced? And so she thought a while, and she told this story. She said that she told me something the first time I knew about this. In the funeral industry in Australia, every time they put the coffin in the hearse and they take it to wherever it's going to go and they come back again, they will always clean the hearse up after every funeral. Even if it's 3 or 4 a day, they employ one fellow in this particular place, one guy who cleans up the hearse inside and out, so it's spotless, for the next coffin. So he'd just come back from like a morning funeral, and the fellow went inside and cleaned it all up inside, and then closed the doors. He was about to clean the outside up when all the windows started to mist up for no logical reason. All misted up. And if that wasn't scary enough, then handprints started to appear on the inside of the windows, on the mist. Handprints. Something inside was trying to get out. That was spooky. It was okay, just you opened the door, whatever it was, get out. But that in all the years, I have to tell this story, that this was told to me by, that Jake Mitra, that he told me this story, that it was a fellow went to visit England, and he went into one of these pubs, really old pubs, ancient pubs, maybe 400, 500, 600 years old, really low roofs. But they're very popular amongst tourists because they just got some character to them. So he went in one of these pubs and ordered a pint of British beer. And when he went to sit down, he noticed he was the only one in the pub, as well as the barman, the publican they call it, who was just wiping some glasses. So he went and sat down on a table, started drinking his beer, and as he swears that he heard this sound saying, "Nice pair of shoes you're wearing." He looked around, there's no one else in the bar, and the publican was a long way away. He couldn't have been throwing his voice that far. And so he thought, just imagining things, because the atmosphere was really spooky. And then he took another sip of the beer, and he heard another sound. Nice jacket too. You're looking around, no one was there at all. And then he took another sip of beer, and he heard, "And a nice tie you're wearing." And that was it. No one could have said that except something supernatural. So he put his beer down and went outside. And the pub went, "Where are you going?" He said, "This pub is haunted." I said, "What do you mean?" And he told what happened. He heard this voice telling him, "Nice pair of shoes, nice jacket, nice tie." And the publican said, "That's the peanuts. They're complimentary." It's a joke. It's a bad joke. Complimentary. Nice jacket, nice. Okay, fair enough, I'll stop. De Ajandona. First, out of curiosity, is the past life story true or made up one? Well, it was told to me last retreat. That was October. But it was a joke, and somebody made it up. I thought it's a really nice joke they made up here, because you get lots of, when you get into deep meditation, you get lots of insight and inspiration and creativity. That's why he created the joke for me. Anyway, is it Sila that determines your next place you're going to be born? It's many things, your karma and what you want to do. If you want to go to England to visit that pub where the peanuts are complimentary, how do you get there? Number one, you have to have enough funds or time off to get there. And many people have enough funds, but they don't want to go there. So you have to have the karmic resources and also the desire to go there. So that's actually what creates your next life. Your store of karma, whether you can actually get to that place, and number two, whether you want to be there. Which is one of the reasons why, years ago, one of the disciples here, they said, when they get reborn, they want to be reborn as a dog. And now for Asians, what will you be reborn as a dog for? And I said, think about it. A dog doesn't have to go to work. How many of you have to get up early, sort of a Monday morning, just get washed, put on a suit and tie, do your makeup if you're a girl, and just go in the traffic and get stressed out and have a boss who gives you a hard time, gives you more work, and if you really try hard and finish that work, they give you more. You never get enough money, and you come back on the weekend and they email you and give you more work. Oh, it's just so stressful going to work. What do dogs do? They sleep all day. And look at the food they get these days. They get the best food. Many dogs, they don't eat eat dog food, they eat human food. You see them begging at the table. One of my favorite cartoons is this dog at the table, by the table, all the family there having dinner, and the dog's got a revolver, a gun, points it at the family and says, "I'm done with begging." So they get free medical care. The only job is to wag their tail and to take you for a walk in the morning. You don't take the dog for the walk; it takes you for a walk, and that's about it. All the duties. No stress at all. Nice warm house, lovely garden, playing around all day. But then I told this gentleman, because I knew his character, I said, you know what happens with a dog when it's born? After a few weeks it's taken to the vet to get desexed. He said, oh, I never realised that. I don't want to be reborn as a dog, he said. He was a really sensuous guy. So be careful what you wish for. That might be what you get. So it's what you want. And also whether you can achieve that because of your karmic. That determines your next birth. Next question. First day, I really hate this place, don't know why. Second day, I start liking this place, maybe because of the good food. Third day, I hate it again because of the flies. Then the next day, I didn't know how I felt after plenty of meditation practices. But constantly changing of feelings is really terrible. Oh no, it's interesting. You don't get bored that way. And it will pass. It passed before. So, when you hate the place, is it because of the place? When you like the place, is it because of the place? So it shows you all these likes and dislikes, all these preferences. It's nothing to do, with the place, but everything to do with the way you look at it. We can improve this place, but that doesn't work. We improve our contentment, our satisfaction, to be not so demanding and so fault-finding. Change your perception, and then the place becomes wonderful and beautiful. The flies, oh, they're so wonderful, because they keep you in the present moment. All of you think a lot about fantasies or whatever, and it flies up your nose. You can't think about your sexual fantasies or what you're going to do when you leave here. It really brings you in a present moment awareness. Thank you, Fly, for reminding me just to be. So, and the food. It's good food. Yeah, but how long does it last, the good food? You'll find that food teaches you impermanence. You look on your plate there, and in 5 seconds it's gone. Maybe a bit longer than that. So food is very impermanent. When you have a cup of tea, tea is very deep, especially in a big mug. So, I learned a lot from food. I told people today at lunch, because people were just, asking me, said, oh, no, because I think somebody there, I think their father's or mother's just anniversary, they were like 96, 97, and that they wanted me to live long. And I told them the secret of long life. The secret of long life. It's obvious when you reflect upon it. Drink lots of long life milk. Well, it says it on the packet. Long life milk. That's the secret of long life. Long life milk. So anyway, it's not the milk. It's not. It's just your mind is in charge. It creates. If your mind creates hatred, your mind creates love. It's really weird. Sometimes as a monk, you get to do marriage counseling, and I can't understand what the problem is. This woman, I've known her for a long time, really nice, kind, comes and serves the monks really lovely food, just really generous, nice to talk with, and really, serves, and then the guy, just really a great guy, and just wonderful, and very kind and gentle, and I think, well, it's a nice guy, a nice woman. Why can't you get on together? What's the problem? It's just sometimes the way we look at each other. As a monk, I can see the beauty in everybody. Anyway, you chose them. Why is it that you choose your partner in life, and you really spend a lot of time choosing them sometimes? You go out many times. These days, it's about 2 years, 3 years before they actually get married. They'll be living with one another for all that time. You think they get to know each other by now and make a really sort of informed choice. But then after a few years, they have arguments and they start to hate each other. But look at your children. Your children come out and you don't know where they come from. Well, actually, these days you're supposed to maybe be able to choose the genetic makeup of your kids, design the children, but you haven't been able to do that yet. You don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes you get a good one, sometimes just, they drive you crazy. But it doesn't matter which one they are, you'll always love them unconditionally. You don't choose your children, but you'll always love them. Your partner, you choose them. Sometimes you hate them. Why is that? It's crazy stuff to me. So, that's one of the problems that we choose these things, like our wife. First day you like her, the next day you hate her, the next day you like her again. But constantly changing of feelings is really terrible. Welcome to life. So that's one of the reasons why, one of the problems is because, as a couple you have to make decisions. And people just don't know how to make decisions. Just, two people living together, they don't know how to just work together. So these days, I always tell people when I do marriage blessings for them, that to solve all the problems of a marriage, it's so simple. We use what's called the calendar method. So obvious when it's explained to you. Because look, the problem is arguing when, that you have to make a decision. Your wife always thinks she's right. And it doesn't matter if you're a high court judge, you will not be able to convince your wife that she's wrong. The best barristers in the world can't convince a wife she's wrong. And wife, it doesn't matter if you're a nuclear scientist, the brainiest woman on the planet, you cannot convince your husband he's wrong. You've tried that many times, haven't you? There's no way. It's obvious he's wrong, but you try and convince him, no way. So it's a waste of time arguing. You'll never convince your partner that you're right and they're wrong. So what to do? Easily, just make it fair, share. So the calendar method works like this. If it's an odd day of the month, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and so on, then the wife is right. And if it's an even day of the month, 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, and so on, the guy is right. It's fair. So you can never complain, why does he always have to be right? Or why do I always have to give in to her? You just find out the day. What day is it today? The 20th, isn't it? So 20th, guys, we're right today. But be careful, tomorrow she's right. And anyone who's smart has probably already worked out that there's more odd days in the year than even days. So the girls get a couple of extra days, but it's worth it for a peaceful life. So that's a calendar method. So it's fair, you can't argue with that. So I thought we'd even actually extend that to Parliament. So on the odd days of the month, the Labour Party is right, and on the even days of the month, the Tory people are right, the Liberals. It's fair. A good idea. There'd be no argument. Anyway, the problem is, but once you have gay marriage, then it doesn't work. Same-sex marriage. How to get another method. Anyway, would you mind share your view about Amitabha Buddha and Pure Land? I heard Mahayana Buddhists mention him a lot in their teachings, but not on Theravada. Many thanks. What is the Pure Land? You investigate it, and you will find out in the Pure Land, whatever you want, you just get. If you want a pizza, it's just delivered to your door. If you want to watch a cricket match or want to watch, you just press a button and it's there on your screen. Whatever music you want from anywhere in the world, you just put your earpod, whatever it is, goes in your ear, and your iPod, you press a button and it's there. Whatever temperature you want, you click a button and it's the right temperature for you. Do you recognize that? That's our modern world. Whatever you want, movie, it's there for you. Netflix. You want a car to drive you somewhere? It is. What's it? Uber. We're living in the Pure Land already. You're already here. So you don't have to wait for Amitabha Buddha. You've arrived. This is the Pure Land. So now's the time to practice and keep your precepts and meditate and become enlightened. This is the Pure Land. So stop putting it off and procrastinating. I have cataract on my left eye, and I have made a habit that whenever I notice it, I recall Buddha's last words on impermanence and practicing diligently. Is it too hard? Maybe I should recall kindness. Yeah, recall kindness. You've got another eye. It's only in your left eye. You've got a right eye as well. So one eye's enough. You've got a spare. Anyway, what's there to look at in life? It's just another sense to have to worry about. So no, don't worry about it. I find it comfortable to do anapana meditation while walking. Is there anything wrong with it? I can keep the concentration while walking. Your comments, I'd like to know. Well, mindful of the breath. If you're really mindful of the breath, you won't be mindful of where you're walking. Maybe it's okay in here. You might be walking over there and you tread on a poor millipede, or you don't notice you got to the steps and you start tumbling over, because you can only be focused on one thing. If you really are focused on the breath, you're not focused on anything else. So this is really important. Whoever that is, I will not allow you to give me a lift back to Bodhinyana Monastery. Because instead of just actually watching you've got to turn around at the gate, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, crash, breathing in. So, no, honestly, you always pay attention to the most important thing, whatever's happening right now. So if you are driving, you don't follow your breath, you watch the traffic. You're aware of that. If you're eating, you don't just watch your breath, you just notice the food going into your mouth. If you're cooking, you pay attention to the cooking. You don't always just watch your breath, because there's other things which are important as well. During my meditation, I felt a fear of annihilation which stops me from letting go. How do I overcome this? You're not going to get annihilated. It's not that easy. Instead, you're just going to get very peaceful. You're going to vanish slowly. It's hard to get similes, but one of those similes, which I wrote in the book, was from Alice in Wonderland, where Alice sees the Cheshire Cat. And a Cheshire Cat is a particular species of English felines which has a constant smile on its face. And in this particular passage, the Cheshire Cat appeared on a branch of a tree and then suddenly vanished and then suddenly appeared again. And Alice said something like, "You're coming and going so quickly, it just really gives me a headache." And so the Cheshire Cat, out of compassion, said, "Okay, Alice, I will disappear slowly." And so the Cheshire Cat started vanishing. I think it was just the head. So first the ears disappeared, then the whiskers vanished, then the chin vanished, then the nose vanished, then the whole head vanished, leaving only the smile. And Alice said, "I've often seen a cat without a smile. This is the first time I've seen a smile without a cat." And I thought, what a wonderful simile that is of deep meditation. Yeah, you get annihilated, disappear, but you leave the smile, happiness. So, lucky vanishes, leaving only the smile. Isn't that nice? So what gets lost is worth getting lost. Dear Ajahn Brahm, in some cultures it is considered not appropriate to be higher than a monk while sitting down. Some are agonizing having to sit cross-legged on the floor to be respectful towards the monastics instead of sitting on a chair. What is your opinion on this? Thank you. I have flown on Thai Airways, Sri Lankan Airways, Singapore Airways, and others. You know that when I'm actually sitting on my chair, we don't get any of the other, not the flight staff or the captains, they don't sit on the floor when I'm sitting on a chair in the aircraft. They never do that. There is a time for respect, but compassion is always really important. Kindness. So you don't have to sit. Look, if you're really worried about that, I'm going to get an even bigger throne up here. It'll be so high that you can sit on whatever you like, out of compassion for you. But then you can't win, because someone say, Ajahn Brahm, high and luxurious seats, that's against the precept, stop it. There is a time for respect, but you don't show respect by physical, groveling on the floor or trying to be lower. You show respect, and this is what the Buddha said. You show respect to the Buddha's teachings by following his advice, by practicing. And it's not just practicing like humility, it's practicing kindness, peace, stillness. That's also important. So you do not need to be lower than my head. There are some people, I remember the Sri Lankan women's basketball team or netball team came, and one of those women, she was about 7 foot tall. Never seen such a tall woman in my life. Actually, there's a picture of her in the West Australian with like the tallest football player in Fremantle Dockers. I think Sandilands or something it was called. And she was bigger than the forward of the football team. Really, so she had a very terrible time trying to get lower than me. And of course, you don't know. It was hard enough. She came into Nolamara Centre, hard enough to get through the door. She had to crouch down because obviously it hit her head. So anyway, that is not the point. The point is you show respect, just by your actions, by your kindness. That's how we respect people. So you don't need to agonize sitting cross-legged on the floor, for goodness sake. Please just make sure that your body is comfortable. Vajrayana Brahm. Is samatha and anapanasati the same? What is the difference between samatha and vipassana? Why does some adherents of vipassana look down on samatha and feel it is not the direct path? That's just because of pride, arrogance, conceit, and stupidity. There were this couple. You know the story? It's a good story. They were being partners. They were really into spirituality, into meditation. The guy was called Sam Atta, and his wife was called Vipassana. So Sam Atta and Vipassana were really into meditation. And they had a dog. The dog was called, they had two dogs. One was called Anapanasati, and the other one was called Metta. So one day they decided after lunch to go up Samadhi Mountain, Meditation Mountain, and Sam went up Meditation Mountain because he loved the peace and the tranquility. It was so calm and quiet up on Meditation Mountain. Vipassana, she took her incredible Canon camera to take insight shots. Because the higher you got on Meditation Mountain, you could see so much about the nature of the world. And Metta the dog, she went up there because there was so much fun, so much joy, so much happiness up there. Another part of Sati just went up there for exercise. So there they went, Samatha, Vipassana, Anapanasati, and Metta, up Meditation Mountain. When they got halfway up, Anapanasati, could hardly find him. The breath had almost disappeared. And Metta, the dog, she was wagging her tail. When dogs are really happy, they wag their tail, they're just so joyful. And Sam, really peaceful up there. And Vipassana, even halfway up, could take so many shots, so many great wisdom shots. And by the time they got to the top of Meditation Mountain, it was absolutely peaceful. So silent, nothing moved at all. Sam enjoyed that, wow. But Sam had a pair of eyes. He could actually see incredible, the whole of samsara was laid out in front. And she was taking incredible shots. Amazing just insights, with her amazing camera on the top of Meditation Mountain. But she could also enjoy the peace. Metta, that dog was wagging its tail like it's going to fall off, running around in circles. So joyful up there. But Metta the dog could also experience the stillness and the joy and the insight. And as for Anapanasati dog, by that time Anapanasati had totally vanished. Couldn't find the dog anywhere. Because on top of Meditation Mountain, the breath stops and disappears. And you'll always have on the top of Meditation Mountain stillness, insight, and metta. They all go together. It's one of the reasons why sometimes people say, I'm enlightened now. I say, no, you're not. What are you talking about? I'm enlightened. What do you know? That's a sign you haven't got anywhere. If you're angry and upset, Other times people said, oh, I got this incredible jhana. And I said, I look at them and said, nah, women can't get jhana. What do you mean? Look, I'm just winding people up. I said, look, if you got jhana, if you're wise, nothing bothers you. You say whatever you like. You're just so blissed out. Oh, it doesn't matter. Because these are the signs. In deep meditation, stillness, insight, and love, kindness, they all go together. You can't have one without the other. There is no such thing as samatha without vipassana. No vipassana without samatha. But what a lot of people miss, there's no such thing as either of those without lots of love and kindness and joy, metta. So, there's... Sorry? Yeah, compassion. Same really thing. So you give a dog different names. Sometimes I call the dog this, sometimes I call it that. But this is what samatha vipassana... Why does some adherents of vipassana look down upon samatha if it is not the direct path? They just have to look at the sutras, the teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha said, eightfold path. Not a sevenfold path, not a onefold path, an eightfold path. So it means all the factors of the eightfold path. You can't stop one. The best path is, the only path is, eightfold path. However, people like shortcuts. When you take a shortcut, you always get into trouble. My famous shortcut story, for those in Sri Lanka, you know this, that I was giving a talk in Kandy, and I was being driven back to Colombo, and the driver, is actually one of the Weti Munis, he should have known better. He said, I'll take a shortcut. And we ended up by Kalutura. That's a long way. I mean, that really is getting lost. And people were really worried about me. They thought we'd had an accident about 3 or 4 hours after the other people arrived. What happened to you? I said, we took a shortcut. That always happens. Take shortcuts. It always takes more time. So there is no, the shortcut is the Eightfold Path. And later on, I'll show the Anapanasati Sutta there. It says, Anapanasati is Satipatthana. Satipatthana is Samatha. It all goes together. People like to sort of, just try and separate these things out, but you can't. I'm finding that my breath is disturbing any silence and stillness I can obtain, which brings upon the thought, is this common? Yeah, just be kind to your breath. Poor old breath. If you start to stop your breath, then it really will disturb the silence and stillness, because we'll have to call the medics in, and they'll come in there and they just give you defibrillators, and people go crazy trying to get you alive again. So it's much better, be kind to your breath. Treat your breath like a friend, with respect. And then the breath gets so quiet, so still. My poor old breath. It's been breathing in and out for such a long time. Even when I'm asleep, when I'm busy, this breath always serves you. It's your most consistent servant, your breath. Have you ever thanked it, shown it gratitude? Thank you, breath. And my breath knows what to do. If it needs a very deep breath, it just does it by itself. If it doesn't need much breath, it's very shallow. It self-adjusts. So who am I to disturb my breath? So it's not my breath disturbing the silence, it's you're disturbing your breath. And then, so quiet. Breathing in, breathing out. It soon gets so quiet, you hardly breathe at all. Do you still get exhausted and grumpy sometimes from having to deal with people issues day by day? Yes. I don't know, people keep asking the same old questions again and again and again. No, because that I remember just years and years ago, there was a recorded talk by Krishnamurti. I was really interested at first in just what he was saying. I was not a monk yet. And it was at the New York Library, a famous talk. And then one person in the audience, they asked this question. And I thought, wow, this is a really interesting question. Now, how is Krishnamurti going to answer this one? And it's really putting him on the spot. And Krishnamurti answered, do I have to answer every question? And I thought, he's just avoiding it. And it's not respecting the questioner. So when I heard that, I always resolved, if you have the time and the interest to write a question, I should try and do my best to answer it, if I understand what the question is. But you don't put it down, you don't get grumpy sometimes, having to deal with people and issues that day to day. The way to overcome that is, you try and practice. Yes, sometimes you do get tired, but the way you do that is just with the Emperor's 3 questions. Now is the most important time. The one right in front of you is the most important person in the world. I really try that. Maybe sometimes I fail, but I really try. If you're in front of me at the interview time, I really try and give you importance. Because I know myself, when you've been trying to, come on, get away. There's other people, waiting in line. Just, your questions aren't important. Who do you think you are to ask me? That really is terrible when you get that feeling. So the person in front of you is really important. And to care, be kind. Thank you so much for the funny, insightful evening talks, everything you might have had a long day, even though you might have had a long day yourself. When a state of meditation has been fluctuating and I'm sometimes exhausted and a bit grumpy at the end of the day, these talks lighten up so much that I just want to keep on meditating even after the talks. Also, the morning talk about not measuring how the meditation is going is exactly what the Ajahn ordered. Really? You've been measuring the whole day. You say it's really nice, funny, insightful. No, it's okay. In other words, it's great. That's compliments. As I said, I think yesterday, any compliments, praise comes over here. Any complaints goes to Bianca. That's fair, isn't it? I find it hard to shut down my hearing when I meditate. I have not bought earplugs. I have always been very sensitive to noise, even when I sleep, not a medical condition, just how I am. Any advice? Well, it's a bit late now to get those earplugs because you have to order them in. I can't give you mine because they won't fit. Because everyone's, ear holes are different. So they're not that expensive. They're tiny little things, but they're great. So next time you come here, or when you leave here, go to an audiologist. Don't just get them from a chemist. You've got to get experts, the audiologists, and you can put them in there, and they're great. So, yeah, we do get sensitive to noise. One of the reasons I get sensitive to noise, many of you have been to my cave. It's my bedroom. I'm the only person, I think, in the whole world whose bedroom is a tourist attraction. It's true. But that's so quiet in there. So of course, that's just my sort of standard. So when you go to other places, it might be quiet by you, but it's really noisy for me. So that's why I love that little getting some earplugs. And when I'm out of my cave, I can actually use earplugs. So I really appreciate, that shut down your hearing when you meditate. Don't try and shut it down. Just let it be. Be kind to it, and it'll disappear by itself. Dear Ajahn, when the Buddha mentioned Mara, is it a metaphor to defilements or a real being living in the heavens? It is both. You can use it as a metaphor, but you can also use it as a real being. That's why when we bought our city centre, we bought it in a suburb. No, like Mara. No, you add the LA, in sort of Malaysia and Singapore, okay la? And so that means literally, no Mara is allowed in Nolamara. So that's why it's there. That's why it's so successful, because Mara's not allowed there. So Mara is a metaphor, a real living being in the heavens, both, because the heavens where Mara presides is the heavens of those who wield power over other people's creations. Paradnimata Wasawati. In short, the control freak in chief of the universe. Why is that in the heaven realm? Look, you have to have a lot of good karma to become President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief. That's like Mara, Commander-in-Chief of other people's creations. Why on earth, why would a person want to be Commander-in-Chief? There's too much headaches. So you get there because you've got lots of good karma, but power corrupts, as it corrupts Mara. And it's a simile for your controller inside. You are the controller-in-chief of some part of your world. Yeah, you let other parts go, but my room, my spot in this meditation, my body, my mind, you think that belongs to me. I'm not going to let anybody else control this. You can let go so much, but it's where you can't let go. That last bit of you which you control, which you think is yours, that is where stops you getting jhanas and getting enlightened. You don't control anything. You should learn that by now. You don't control your husband, your wife, your kids. You try controlling your kids. I can't control my monks. You know that by now. That's why I don't even give it a try anymore. My Ajahn Liam, he took over Wat Pa Pong, and he's a really lovely monk. I went up to him once and said, "How are your monks? Are they easy to train?" He said, "Oh, you're really easy to train." "How do you train your monks?" I said, "Well, they want to go this way, I let them go this way. When they go that way, I let them go that way." Easy. And that is actually quite wise. Being kind, trusting. You teach, but you don't force. Kindness rather than force. You try and control and it all goes wrong. You let things be. And then it's all peaceful. Put the cup down. So that's why the Buddha said, "I know you, Mara." Control. Let things be. Ajahn, right? Dear Ajahn, was there a particular point you felt you achieved your enlightenment? Do you then forever, something I know that can mean lifetime after lifetime, never lose your enlightenment again, or is it still a practice to you? To who? Okay, now I'm going to tell you the time when I became enlightened. You've heard this before, haven't you? My 4th year as a monk. I was really getting good. No responsibilities. During the range retreat, really getting into the meditation. And because no responsibilities and just had lots of teachings, you're really getting young, fit, no health problems, really getting into it. And the range retreat, when you had lots of time, and then you were meditating, and one evening, the meditation was really strong. Lots of peace, lots of joy, and there was a walking meditation path. My mind was just so open. All these incredible insights came pouring in. And every time you get why haven't I seen that before? That's amazing. And it's like you get so much bliss when you get great insights. And then the big one came. That was just literally mind-blowing. Amazing, just so much joy. This was late at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, no sleepiness at all, just totally inspired, energized, no hindrances anywhere to be seen at all. This was it. Fully enlightened. Another arahat arose in the world. And I don't spoil it, those who know the ending of the story. And so, just about, we used to get up 3 o'clock in the morning, the bell went. And I thought it was about 2:30, I thought I'll just stretch I went back to my room, stretched out, only 5 minutes, and no way you can go to sleep. You're just full of energy, full of bliss, full of wow. So I went there to in the hall to start meditating, about a quarter of an hour before the bell. And they rang the bell. Noise doesn't disturb you when you're enlightened. It was just so incredibly beautiful sound of this bell. And then people would come in and make all their noises. Oh, just such compassion, they got up so early. And you were sitting perfectly straight. No effort at all. No effort. It was just natural. And watching the breath or getting into deep meditation, just the easiest thing in the world. And then it was time to go on our arms round. I went on the arms round like walking on air, zapping all these villagers, with powerful loving kindness. And every time they put a piece of rice in my bowl, you've just made huge karma to a newly minted arahat. You're so lucky. And as they put it in there, just blasting with loving kindness. And then because on the arms round in those days, you just get a piece of rice, if you're lucky, a banana. But the main meal would be actually cooked in the monastery. So when we came back, there was something special that morning. We'd usually only have one pot of rotten fish curry. No pladek. It was rotten fish, honestly. To tell you what it was, because what they used to do, they'd catch the fish, in the rainy season when there was water in this part of Thailand, and then they'd put them in a jar to pickle them, to preserve them, for the year. So we're still using the old fish from last year, and in a curry. It stank. And to tell you what it was like, the best simile, I was cleaning up around the kitchen one day, and I found one of the jars, and just a bit of plastic on the mouth to keep things out. The plastic had torn. The flies had been in there, and the fish were crawling with maggots. And so I went to throw it out. And then that's the time the headman of the village, the most educated, refined man of all of that village, saw me and said, "What are you doing?" "Look, it's got ruin, it's spoiled, it's got maggots." He said, "No, that's more protein." He took it from me, and that's what we ate the following morning. So that is what we used to eat. Rotten fish curry. Every day. You didn't have a choice, that's all there was. Stank. But, at least you survived on it, sort of. But this day there was another pot there. I don't know where it came from, but it was like a pork curry. It must have been from the town. It was actually edible. And I thought, wow, the heavenly beings were celebrating my enlightenment. Today I'm going to have a delicious meal, like you do when you celebrate, great achievements. Have a party, that's the best you can do. So I thought, great, I'm going to have a good meal today. Thank you, Devas, for celebrating and appreciating another arahat that's come into this monastery. Now, I was number 2 monk at that time, used to pass the food down the line. So the abbot, the head monk, he had the first choice. And he was born in that village. I thought he'd like the rotten fish. That's what he grew up on. But he wouldn't take any rotten fish at all. He took huge, ladle, really big servings of this pork curry. No one could eat that much. But it was okay, because there's plenty for me left. But what he did next was inexcusable. He took the pot of pork curry and he poured it into the rotten fish curry, stirred it all up, saying it's all the same, it's all the same. Bloody hypocrite. If it was all the same, why did he take his out first? Why did he mix it up together before he took his? He took his first, and then he's mixed it all up, he spoiled my celebration of my enlightenment. And that was where I realized arahats don't care what they eat. They certainly don't get angry, and I was really angry. And I realized I wasn't enlightened after all. And you know, if you thought you were enlightened and it only lasts about 4 or 5 hours, you don't care what you eat afterwards. You spoiled your whole day already. So I just slopped whatever in, I just ate it. It's nice when it lasted. Of course, it was a fake enlightenment. So, that was a time I thought I was enlightened. Okay. I noticed that monks and nuns smile when they meditate, and I noticed it's a lot easier to be gentle and kind in my meditation when I smile too. Is this true, or is this just some weird feeling? Thank you for your wisdom. Yes, of course it's great to smile when you meditate. So sometimes if your meditation is getting a bit dull, just take your attention away from your breath or from your metta or from whatever you're watching, the sound of silence a few people are doing. Take it away from that and put it on your mouth. If you can't make a smile, fake one. Just fake a smile. Just turn the end. Because that's the best posture. The only thing about posture, which I really recommend, I don't care where you put your legs. You've got false ones, take them off, leave them outside. I don't care what you do with your eyes or your hands. You can put them on your head if you want, or how you sit. But what's really important is get a smile on your face. Because as soon as you do, that creates a little bit of happiness and joy, which really helps the meditation along. So absolutely true. Well done. Smile a lot. So the person last evening had asked about tailbone pain, also known as coccyx pain, or coccyx, whatever it is anyway. Try leaning your tailbone area off the cushion when sitting. Imagine you have a tail, you actually do, just a fragment of it. This is called tailbone. And imagine you want to have that tail fall off the cushion when sitting. Having that tailbone area not touching the cushion when sitting should help. E.g. leaning forward should help. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, but as a fellow sufferer of the coccyx pain, I know what it feels like. It must be contagious. So if you do have coccyx pain, please don't share your cushions. Otherwise you may get or whatever. Okay, yeah, but so it's not touching the cushion. Okay. As Ajahn said, paying attention to that area and adjusting slowly when it hurts should allow you to continue meditating peacefully with metta. So there we go. Coccyx pain sufferers, tailbone sufferers, you can actually meet afterwards to have a special club for tailbone sufferers club to actually say. But for some people it really is. I shouldn't really make fun of it because sometimes people are trying their best. So just what you say, that tail. Imagine you want to have that tail fall off the cushion when sitting. Having that tailbone area not touching the cushion, in other words, put the cushion a bit forward, I suppose. And then it means you're not touching, so there's no pressure on it. Dear Ajahn, someone asked me a question when I told him I'm on the way to jhana growth for a meditation retreat. The question is it Vipassana meditation? I don't know what is the answer. Can Ajahn help? You say, yes and no. I always like to know questions which people can't understand. So Vipassana meditation. There's no such thing as Vipassana meditation. There's no such thing as Samatha meditation. You say it's Eightfold Path meditation. So that means it's the whole, how the Buddha taught. Actually, I never actually finished that when the Buddha actually said, Ananda was asked, after the Buddha passed away, Ananda was the go-to person, and he'd been with the Buddha for such a long time. He said, what type of meditation did the Buddha praise? What did he recommend? What did the Buddha recommend? And Ananda said, this is in the Gopakamoggallana Sutta. Sometimes people don't believe me, but I quote the boss, so the Venerable Boss, the Buddha, quote the sutras, and the Buddha said that the Buddha, this is Ananda quoting the Buddha, only praised 4 types of meditation. First jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. That's the only meditation the Buddha praised. That was a way to enlightenment. So sometimes the Vipassana tradition, it's not really, I'll have to be honest to you, it's not really true to how the Buddha taught. And This is actually just what I heard. It hasn't been sort of validated, but I think it's pretty accurate. The way that Vipassana tradition is, just doing Vipassana, was really promoted, by a Burmese monk, because he thought that lay people can't achieve jhanas. It's like a second-class meditation. And I know that because even in Vietnam, the United Vietnamese Sangha for a while banned monks teaching jhana. They banned it because they thought it was just too troublesome. The lay people wouldn't have the amount of renunciation which the Sangha has to be able to get the jhanas. But then people like me come along and just show that you can get jhanas as lay people. Why teach second class? There's something in being brought up in the West. You can't have discrimination like that. It doesn't make sense. And you look, and Buddha never discriminated like that. So we start teaching jhanas again. So now it's the whole Eightfold Path. Jhanas happen. And they're really beautiful, and they're part of the path. So if you want to say that this is jhana growth, we teach jhana. Eightfold Path. And as somebody once said, because of, about a year ago, they said this over, actually Brahmadi was talking about this at tea time over in Bodhinyana Monastery. Because on one of his retreats, one of the retreatants was called Jhana. So I said, for anybody who hasn't seen Jhana yet, she's sitting over there. So anyway, it's a Vipassana meditation. It is the Eightfold Path. And you can't argue with that. Vipassana Samatha, the whole works. That makes sense? Yeah. Okay. So that's it, folks, for tonight. We've all finished the questions here. So now is the time to try, not Vipassana meditation, not Samatha meditation, the Ananda method of meditation. As you go and lie down, you let go. Who knows, before your head hits the pillow, maybe you might become another Arahant. And I will test you out tomorrow morning. Whatever you have for breakfast, I don't know what you have over there, I'll mix everything together before I take mine. And see how you behave. Okay, very good. So, be patient. She wants to go to bed to try and get enlightened. Another method. Are you ready? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. So have a wonderful night tonight, but you don't have to have a wonderful night. It's up to you. I'm not going to order you around. I'm not a control freak. I'm not Mara. See what happens. Oops. I'm supposed to do that.